3 minutes before midnight, my phone rang, and suddenly nothing in my life made sense. It was my best friend, calling to warn me about my husband's past. "Lynn, I need to tell you something," she said, her voice trembling. I didn't want to believe it, but I saw it with my own eyes. My heart was racing as I waited for her to continue. "What is it?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "Your husband has a room in his penthouse that's always locked," she said. "And I found your photo inside." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Why would my husband keep my photo in a locked room? And what else was he hiding from me? I had to know the truth. I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that had settled in my stomach. I had to see this room for myself. The next day, I decided to sneak into my husband's penthouse while he was at work. I made my way to the room my friend had told me about, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached the door, I noticed that it was slightly ajar. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was small, with walls lined with old photographs and a single chair in the center. And then I saw it, a photo of me, taken on our wedding day. But it was the caption that made my blood run cold. "My beloved wife, Lynn." I felt a chill run down my spine. Who was my husband, really? And what did he want from me? I spent the next few hours searching the room, looking for any clues that could explain what was going on. But the more I searched, the more questions I had. I found a diary belonging to my husband, but it was locked. I found a series of letters, but they were addressed to someone named Emily. I was starting to feel like I was living in a nightmare. And then, just as I was about to leave, I heard a noise behind me. I turned around to see my husband standing in the doorway, a look of shock on his face. "Lynn, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice firm but controlled. I tried to play it cool, but I could feel my heart racing. "I was just looking for something," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. But my husband wasn't buying it. "You shouldn't be in here," he said, his eyes narrowing. "This room is off limits." I felt a surge of anger and fear. What was he hiding from me? And why was he being so secretive? I decided to confront him, to demand answers. But as I looked into his eyes, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A glimmer of fear, of desperation. And in that moment, I knew that I was in grave danger. I tried to push the feeling of fear aside, to focus on getting answers. "What's going on, husband?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Why is this room off limits?" My husband hesitated, looking around the room nervously. "I'll tell you everything," he said finally. "But you have to promise not to leave me." I was taken aback by his words. What could he possibly have done that would make me want to leave him? But I agreed, curious about what he had to say. And then he started talking, telling me a story that sounded like a fairy tale. He said he had been in love with a woman named Emily, but she had died in a tragic accident. He said he had been heartbroken, and that's why he had married me, to fill the void in his heart. But as he spoke, I noticed something strange. He seemed to be avoiding eye contact, and his words sounded rehearsed. I wasn't sure what to believe. Was he telling the truth, or was he just trying to manipulate me? I decided to do some digging of my own, to see if I could uncover any evidence that would support his story. And what I found shocked me to my core. A series of emails, exchanged between my husband and a woman named Emily. But they weren't old emails, they were recent, sent just a few days ago. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. My husband was still in contact with Emily, the woman he claimed was dead. What was going on? And who was Emily, really? I was determined to find out, no matter what it took. I confronted my husband about the emails, demanding to know the truth. He looked at me, a mixture of fear and guilt on his face. I can explain, he said, his voice shaking. Emily was my sister. She's been in a coma for years, and I've been taking care of her. I was stunned. Why had he lied to me about Emily's death? And why was he still in contact with her, if she was just his sister? But as I looked into his eyes, I saw something that made my heart skip a beat. A deep sadness, a sense of loss. And in that moment, I knew that he was telling the truth. But why had he kept it a secret? And what did it have to do with our marriage? I asked him, and he took a deep breath before answering. I married you because I needed someone to take care of Emily, he said. I knew it wasn't fair to you, but I was desperate. And I fell in love with you, Lynn. I didn't mean to hurt you. I felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and relief. I had been living a lie, but at least now I knew the truth. And as I looked at my husband, I saw a man who was broken, who was struggling to come to terms with his past. I realized that our marriage had been a contract, a business arrangement. But it had also been something more. It had been a chance for us to heal, to find love in the midst of tragedy. And as we stood there, looking into each other's eyes, I knew that our story was far from over. In the end, I chose to stay with my husband, to work through our issues and build a life together. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. We learned to communicate, to trust each other, and to heal from our past wounds. And as we stood on the rooftop, looking out at the city skyline, I knew that our love was strong enough to overcome anything. I had learned a valuable lesson: that marriage is a journey, not a destination. And that sometimes, the greatest love stories are the ones that are imperfect, but true. As I looked into my husband's eyes, I saw a man who loved me, flaws and all. And I knew that I would always cherish our story, our contract of love.